Hello, and thank you for joining me. In today's video, I am going to pour the Let's Resin turtle mold that I just recently got. I unboxed this in the video unboxing Let's Resin molds and other items, and I have had so many different ideas for this turtle that I finally had to try to land on one so that I could pour it. So what I want to do today for this turtle is I want to, like in the head and the feet, I actually want to use some small rocks, and these are just rocks that I gathered outside and washed. But in the body itself, like in the shell area, I want to use, let me scoot this out of the way for a second. These are some rocks that I gathered, and I have put them through a rock tumbler, and I did that months ago. But they're really pretty rocks, and I love rocks, so I thought, why not use them in a turtle? So that's what I hope to accomplish today. And when I measured the turtle with water, I came up with 240 milliliters. However, because of displacement, I don't think it's going to take as much. Also, I learned when I did the video shell casings in the large skull mold, and if you haven't watched that video, I will link that in the description box below. But I learned that even with displacement and everything, you don't want to put too much at a time because you want to allow the bubbles to dissipate, and you don't want it to start curing too fast, because I learned that in that mold. Let me show you down here in the little head if I can. This head actually kind of goes downhill in here. So what I think I want to do first is I mixed 100 milliliters of resin. I just want to put a little bit, let me grab my stick. I just want to put a little bit in there and kind of let it go down that hill in the head. And then I'm going to mix some small rocks and see if I can't strategically place those in there. That may be a bit of a challenge. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I just kind of want to get some of that resin, kind of coat the shell area and down in the head. Okay. And what I do when I do the rocks, I actually mix them in the little cup. The small rocks, the bigger rocks, that'll be a different story. Let me put a little bit of resin in this cup and try not to spill it. My cup, I use it over and over again. It's starting to get wonky on me. I just want to do a little bit at a time so that I can coat those small rocks before I put them in. That may be a good start for the head. And I'm sure that I will actually have to pour this in more than one pour, simply because, again, I don't want to worry about a whole bunch of bubbles. Hopefully I won't get a bunch. And I don't want to worry about a flash cure. So let me see if I can pour some of these rocks in this resin. And these are just teeny tiny rocks, but I love the way rocks look in resin. Let me see if I can't get those stirred around and coated. I may want to go ahead and add a little bit more resin to that. Yeah, I think I want to add just a little bit more. I want them to be a little bit easier to work with. So let me add just a little bit more. Not too much though, because I want the rocks to be the majority of the turtle. All right, so y'all, this is going to be a challenge because it actually goes, let me see if I can turn it this way. From the bottom of the shell down to the head, there's actually a bump up, and then it goes downhill. So I'm going to see if I can get these in there. And I'll have to actually pour them in the shell and try to scooch them down. and we will see what happens. So let me grab my little tool. And I don't know if you can see in there. I'm trying to help you to see here. I also have to worry about bubbles. I'm going to try and give this little turtle head a pinch here shortly and a thump. Now I know some of that's going to run right back downhill. I may have put a few too many rocks in there. I may have to get some of those out. But yeah, that head does go downhill. And it looks like what I'm going to have to do, I don't know, maybe those rocks may, I don't know. I'm always so indecisive. Let me go ahead and pour some resin in here. Do I want to leave those little rocks there? I don't. I think I may fish a few of those out if I can, because I just kind of want them in the head and not in the body. And I will have to put a few more up in the head, I think. Probably my next pour, because those aren't coming out very easily. Probably my next pour, because I don't know if you can see on top here. There's room. I'll show you in a second. Let me see if I can't get some more of these rocks out. I don't mind a few small rocks in the body, but I don't want the whole body small rocks. I want them some of the bigger rocks that I have here. I just love the way rocks look in resin, though. Oh, I don't know if I want to leave those in there or not. I guess if they're spread out, they won't be so bad. Let me set this aside and decide if I want to put a little more resin in there. Let me see if I can give you a peek down in here. That's in the head, but if you look here, you can see there's still a gap or an empty spot. So I'll have to put some more small rocks, I think, in there. Maybe a bigger one. I'm going to kind of see if I can pinch that head some. I really don't want bubbles in it. I really don't. All right, let me set that down and decide if I want to put a little bit more resin in the body. I need to respread those little rocks out and then add some bigger ones. And I hope this works. And I hope there's not a whole bunch of bubble pits. Let me move those out of the way. Clean this up a little bit so I can put my rocks up here. And I don't think I'm going to use like the big giant ones. I may set those. That one I definitely don't want to use, simply because there's holes in it. But I do want to use some of these prettier, like striped ones. Let's see if I can get that in there. And I'll have to really watch for some bubbles. And there's some red looking rocks. There are some really pretty rocks in here. And now I'm wondering if I should put maybe a big rock in here, not a giant one, but a bigger one. And if so, which one? Ha 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 ha. Let me see what I think will fit, or maybe wait until I get to that part, because right now I still have plenty of room in here. And let me use the other side of this tool. Turn this over here. Maybe you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I just want to put some of these really pretty rocks. Need to remember to tap them. And I'm hoping those little rocks don't get too much in the way because I want to be able to see these bigger pretty ones too. Let me move those. Kind of move them to the side. Of course, I'm introducing all kinds of bubbles. And I am trying to somewhat strategically place these. Here's a pretty striped one. It's a red one, or kind of a reddish one. Let me move those little ones out of the way again. And yeah, it's probably better if I... Oh, this is a really pretty one. I wonder if that one won't fit up here. I'm going to see if I can make that stay up there. I like that one. It looks like it may. And I still may have to put some little rocks in there. We'll see. Let me add a few of these smaller pretty rocks. I don't know what my fascination is with the rocks, but I sure do like them. Let's see if I can't scooch these little ones out of the way again. I want to scooch some of these small ones up and out of the way and see if I can't get this pretty rock in there. One thing about using rocks, though, is because of the displacement, it won't take near as much resin. I'm trying to make up my mind here. And what I will do once I get this part done, just stop where I'm going to stop, I will actually probably let it sit for a few hours simply because I want to give the bubbles, any bubbles that's in there, time to surface. And then I'll pour another layer and add more rocks. Let me add some of these other smaller but pretty ones. Also, because there is a little tail back here, I will definitely need to make sure that when I get my resin to that level that I poke my tool in there, because I definitely don't want to bubble in the tail either. I've got a little bit more room in here, and then I've got to decide if I want to put the rest of the resin that I mixed. I didn't mix a bunch. I'm going to actually turn it this way so I can see this side. I didn't mix a bunch, but I also don't want to have to worry about it flash curing. Oh, let me turn that one over so the stripes are showing. That one's pretty. I think, I am trying to decide if I think I want to add just a little bit more resin. I didn't mix a whole bunch, but with the displacement, it's not taking a whole bunch right now. But I don't want to take a chance on it flash curing either. These rocks back here are still not even covered. Yeah, add a little bit more. And then see what I think. I'm going to stop there for a minute. And let me see what I've got going on the back here. Looks like it could use some more back here. And I think I'm going to use some smaller. I'll move those around in a second. Because, yeah, I do want up to the top of the shell here. I really do want the bigger of the rocks. And some of these rocks are just so pretty, and they're just rocks that I picked up outside. Nothing special. Let me see if I can slide that one in there. This one is a cool looking rock. But I want to actually put the smaller of the rocks inside the legs. It looks like I may be able to actually possibly just do this in 2 pours. This is a really pretty rock. I have a big blank spot back there. Let me see if I can't tuck something in there. But yeah, I may just let this set for a couple of hours and then come back and be able to do the final pour to include the feet. I just want to check for blank spots, and I do have quite a few. Even I don't know if you can see down in there. There's quite a few blank spots over there. I'm going to turn it this way so I can see a little bit better and see if I can't get some rocks tucked back in there. Let's get some different colors. I don't want just dark. I want all different kinds. I have a really big blank spot that I'm wondering if I can't tuck. Probably get this all over my glove. That in there. I hope this turns out well. I love rocks. Again, I have a little blank spot over here. I'm going to actually use some of these tinier ones to fill that little spot. So I do have some of those too. By the tail, I have some spots. I wonder if I can't scooch this in there by the tail. We'll see. I may be asking for trouble. And that resin is still not up into the tail yet, so probably the next pour I'll have to make sure. I may go ahead and take my tool in there here in a minute just in case. But I really don't want to have to worry. Yeah, I better do that. I don't want to have to worry about bubbles in that little tail spot. And I think I've found it. I think I've found it. So you just push that tool in there and hope that there's no bubble pits. I'm just turning it and turning it and turning it so that I can see up underneath where there may be big blank spots, and there are some. I don't mind some blank spots. I just don't want any big giant ones. Let me see here. Let me see if I can't get that down and in there. And I really hope that there's not a whole bunch of bubbles. There's one here. Get that rock in there. All right, well, I think I've done about as much as I can. I think. I just don't want any real big blank spots. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pile a few more up simply because when it starts to cure, I just don't want that flat cure line. So I do want some rocks just kind of sticking up. So that's what I'm going to do. As long as they don't go up over here, over the edge, we're cool. This is such a pretty rock. Wow, I'm using more rocks than I expected. I want to make sure that's not over. Let me add a white one here and a white one here. I think I need to add something here and here still. This one's pretty. And let me add a couple of small ones there. And another one. All right, well, y'all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this cure for 2 or 3 hours. And then I will come back in and we'll do one more pour and finish it off. So I will see you shortly. Right. It has been about 3 hours and I have some resin mix and I'm going to go ahead and start putting the little rocks in. But I wanted you to see it first. I mean, let me see if I can put you down here a little bit. Me personally, I love the way that looks. It just looks like water flowing over rocks. Let me see if I can get you straightened up here and we will see about getting some of these rocks mixed up. And what I hope to do is once I get the rocks in there, I want to make sure that I have a thin, at least a thin layer of nothing but resin on the very top of it, because I don't want any little rocks poking out anywhere. So let me go ahead and start by putting some resin in this little cup and getting some rocks mixed. And I mixed up 60 milliliters this time. I'm hoping that's enough. It's really hard to tell. Let me get some little rocks in here and get them stirred. And I definitely want to make sure that I pay close attention to right up underneath the head and under the tail. I don't want any bubbles. So let me go ahead and get these mixed in and try to decide where I want to start pouring. I think I'm just gonna start up here in this little. I'll come back in with some more rocks because the resin's gonna, it's gonna kind of slide down. I probably should have mixed this a little bit thicker with the rocks, but that's okay. I can come back in with some rocks. I just want to kind of carefully put those in there. There's one that's just a little bit bigger. Scrape these in and I'll get some more mixed up after I kind of poke them around, and I definitely want to pay attention to this spot right here. I don't want a bubble in there. And I don't want those rocks all the way up, because I don't want any rocks poking out of the finished product. Let me take my tool and use it. There is a little spot in here that I need to make sure that there are no bubbles in it. We'll see if I can't poke a rock or two up in there. Just kind of move these around and then mix some more up. And I also, let me grab a popsicle stick because I do not want any rocks sticking above the mold. Go ahead and mix some more. I hope I have enough resin. I just never ever know. And on a project like this, it's hard to, for me, especially, at least for me, to determine just how much to mix. I mean, I mixed 100 the first time around. That was a little too much. And I'm gonna add some more rocks to this because I don't want it quite so liquidy. Set those down. Let me kind of move these around a little bit. I want to be able to see these at the bottom if at all possible. All right, let me go ahead and put this in this little leg. Put some in this little leg, and then I'll manipulate things around. And I think what I am going to do, after I get a few more little rocks in these little nooks and crannies, is just pour resin, because I kind of want to see some of these bigger rocks on the bottom of the finished piece. And I pour the little rocks on them as I say that. But I'm trying to get them in this. There's little nooks and crannies in here. Yeah, I think I'm just going to add just a few more rocks, and then I'm going to finish it off with just the resin after I check it with the popsicle stick. So it looks like I may have a bubble in there. Let me grab my tool, go in here. Sure enough, do see if I can get that bubble out. I definitely don't want a bubble in the tail. Got a couple more little small rocks over here. Oh, y'all, I keep burying these rocks that I want to see. Looks like this can use a few more rocks up here. And let me flatten those down. Okay. I'm going to try to remove some of those small rocks from some of these bigger ones. And again, I don't want it to. See if I can add just a couple more rocks here. I may have to move those. I don't want anything sticking over. I don't want anything sticking over the mold. Maybe stop while I'm ahead. Okay, now before I finish pouring any more resin, I just kind of want to go into some of these spots that I'm concerned about bubbles. I'll need to tap that one again, I think, after I pour the rest of the resin. Okay. I'm going to grab my popsicle stick. I just don't want any rocks to be above that mold. And I don't feel any with the stick. Okay, well, here goes, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if I can pick it up and maybe give it a thump or two. Then I'm going to go ahead and see about pouring the resin until it's domed or I run out, whichever comes first. Let me stop there and look. I'm also going to need to use an alcohol cloth to clean some of that off. And it's almost to that dome. Almost. Before I go any further, I want to tap that and that. I kind of want to tap these sides. I don't want any bubbles if I can avoid them. Let me pour a little bit more and I'll check again and see what I have. Because it does look like it has just a little bit more room. Well, that's really, really close. I think that may be nice and domed. I definitely don't want it to go over. I do see a bubble here. I sure do make a mess. All right, well, hopefully this will all work out. I am going to watch it for bubbles and maybe come in and tap it occasionally just for fear that there may be some bubbles hidden away in there. And then I'm going to let it cure for 24 hours. So I will see you for the unmolding. See you shortly. It is time for the unmolding. Let me get this cover off and move it out of the way. I really hope that there aren't a whole bunch of bubbles in this. Just looking at it like that, I think that is so pretty. It is definitely heavy. I do see a little bubble pit right there, it looks like. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, I love the way rocks look in resin. Okay, because I've never unmolded this, I do not know what to expect. I do know I want to take the head out last. I'm trying to see here. Let me see if I can get this to budge a little bit. Wow, y'all, it's in there. I'm trying to figure out where would be the best spot to start to get this thing started. It looks like it's moving here. Okay, there we go. There we go. We've got some movement. I'm going to set it down and do it this way because it really is pretty heavy because of the rocks in there. Oh, there we go. Now it's coming apart. Let me see if I can get that side to pull apart. I don't want to rip my mold either. Let's see if I can't just loosen it like all the way around. Oh, I have some little feet coming out now. I know there's a little tail back there, so we got that. And I want to do the head. I really hope that there's not a whole bunch of bubbles in the head. All right, on the bottom, I do feel there's some some overpour there, but I can use an X-Acto knife on it. There's one little bubble pit there. I'm not sure why that is. Here's the bottom. I really like the way it looks. So let's go ahead and see if it looks as good on the other side. Oh, wow, you guys, look at that. That is so pretty. Let me look at the face here. Now there's like a little, I could paint like little eyes on there. And that's probably what I'll do. I'll just use like an acrylic paint pen and paint the little eyes on. But looking at the face, I'm pleasantly surprised. I do not see a bunch of bubbles in there. Look at that little tail, y'all. I don't know if you can see it. It's so cute. It's a little bitty tail. But there's no bubbles in it, and that's good. I really like the way this turned out. I have so many different ideas for this mold. I like the way this turtle turned out, though. I just want to paint some eyes on there, and I could. There are grooves in the back of the turtle's shell. If I wanted to paint through those, yeah, you can see those on camera. I may try to take like a black acrylic pen and outline the shell. I don't know. I really like the way it looks just raw like that with the rocks. But there's the little turtle. I really like this mold. I'm excited to try some of my other ideas. Let me know what you think of the final project in the comments below. I do want to thank you for watching and ask you to consider hitting the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Thanks.